All right, so hi, I'm Mike Anastasia, and that is my stash. That's not my stash. But it always amazes me how much sort of my hobby, which is board games, has in common with crafting. And I do crafting mostly in support of my board gaming hobby. My wife is a knitter. I'm always astonished at how much different groups have adopted and made homes for themselves on the internet. I can't tell this story without Boardgamegeek. And the easiest way to explain Boardgamegeek to this audience is to just say, it's Ravelry for knitters. Or it's Ravelry for board gamers. Okay, a little history about the game that I created. So in the 70s, a guy named Francis Tresham produced a game called 1829, which is about railroads. And then in the 80s, Avalon Hill published 1830, which was the sequel. And then the variations came and came. I'll let you guess what 2038 is about, but the answer is it's also about trains. The thing that's cool about these games is that, to me at least, is there's two layers to them. The train companies take turns, buy trains, lay track, whatever, but the players are investing in the companies, and it's all about making money for yourself, the investor. Sometimes it's right to build a good company and run it. Sometimes it's right to get the other players to invest in your stock, rob the corporate treasury, run for the hills with your money. The trick is that 18XX, from the naming convention, is a niche within a niche within a niche, so it's kind of hard to get some of these games. The most popular ones, like 1830, get published by real publishers. Some designers just put the art out there on the internet. You can print out your own copy and do it. Recently, some people have gone to Kickstarter, but a lot of them get published by small publishers like Deep Thought Games, who handcraft every game. I wasn't willing to wait for that, so my advice to you if you're about to do a project like I just did is before you start, contact the guy who owns the game and ask permission to copy his work. They're on Boardgamegeek, they're very friendly, and they were happy to let me make one for myself as long as I didn't try to sell it. Okay, quick point of advice to anyone who plays board games. Buy yourself some poker chips. So much better than paper money. Wow, this is going a lot faster than I had planned for it. All right, I needed a lot of tools for this. Fortunately, many of them were already in my house. Rebecca was all too happy to let me buy a rotary cutter, which she now uses for fabric work, but I also needed a laminating machine, spray glue, bookbinding tape. The hardest part of this project was recreating all the art for the game for myself. The cool part of that was I got to tweak it to meet my own aesthetic desires. Printed everything out on cardstock, single-sided, glued it back to back with the spray glue, and then ran it through the laminator before I cut it, so I would get perfect clean edges all the way around. So this is the whole game printed out after the laminating. Every railroad company and every player needs a place to keep their own money separate from each other, so that's what these little mats are for. You notice the thing I decided to do was make all the different rectangular things in the game the same proportions as each other, just in different sizes. There are 7 railroad companies in the particular one I decided to make. I took their real historical logos and turned them into the stock certificates and most of the other game components. Moment to breathe. Okay, so many hexagons. The track comes on these little hexagons. This is how I printed them out, crammed all together so I could make as few cuts as possible, and you see the cut lines are out on the edges, so I could use the metal ruler or the clear quilting mat to cut one straight line and get it all done. I'm not really into railroad history, which is weird, but I have a friend who is, and he got me historical pictures of trains that were used at the time this game takes place. I traced them into the computer, into those black and white line drawings, and then turned them into cards. The railroad stations in the game are these little wooden discs. This is the only thing that wasn't cardstock. I printed it out on sticker paper, used a hole punch to punch them to exactly the right size, and you can see the result. The board got the most work and the most help from Rebecca. Printed on 4 pieces of paper, cut the margins very carefully. I think I cut this board 3 or 4 times before I got the center to line up in a way I was satisfied with, and then got spray glued onto heavy card from the craft store. The back got textured scrapbooking paper that Becca found. The edges got wrapped in bookbinding tape, and it looks really nice, and it folds up just like a board game you'd buy in a store. This is a picture of it when I finally got to play it. I was super happy. And I would love to now say that board games are a thing that you should touch and feel, and you should come find me afterwards to touch and feel it, but partly because of the snow, I don't have it with me. So instead, here's what I'll say. If you really want to learn how to play 1846, I will show up the weekend of Fiber Camp somewhere on this campus, and we can make that happen. Thank you.